In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be Laura Sadowski. She's the Director of Advancement at Jiva Theater Center, and we'll be talking about fundraising. Stay tuned for the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. My guest today is Laura Sadowski. She's the Director of Advancement at Jiva Theater Center, and we're here to talk about fundraising and specifically the wonderful program at Jiva called Summer Curtain Call. Laura, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Nannette. Thank you.
I appreciate it. So the Summer Curtain Call has been around for a while in Rochester's benevolent community, and it's always wonderful to see a successful fundraiser continue on. So tell our audience about Summer Curtain Call, what it's about and what the components are of it.
Well, Summer Curtain Call actually plays on the phrase curtain call, which of course tends to be the last bow that a cast of a theater or an opera takes at the end of a performance. So Summer Curtain Call seemed like an appropriate name for the event that we do at the end of our season. It's an opportunity not only for Jiva to sort of reflect back on the last season and celebrate, but also to engage a number of people in the work of the theater who may not otherwise be engaged at Jiva. So we're coming up on our 20th Summer Curtain Call, which will happen in 2020. We just concluded our 19th curtain call this past week, and it's a lovely evening. It starts with a cocktail reception and a silent auction, an opportunity to purchase raffle tickets and wine bottles, and then it moves into a program that includes a live auction. And the highlight of the evening is a custom written production that is presented for one night only. Our artistic director, Mark Cuddy, writes the original script, and we recruit personalities from the community to participate as cast members in the show. And Mark always writes something that's very timely and always very humorous. And it's really amazing to see what 25 individuals who, in many cases, have absolutely no experience on stage are able to create together.
Oh, that's cool. So it sounds like a wonderful program that the community can participate in.
Very much so.
With talent and without, is that right?
With and without talent. As we like to say, the most important aspect of being part of the cast is being a good sport.
There you go. There you go. That's wonderful. So let's talk about the components of the fundraiser. You know, so there are tickets involved,
yes,
right?
Yes. So we have the event in our Wilson stage, which has about 500 seats, and there's nothing that makes us happier than being sold out for Summer Curtain Call. So we accommodate about 500 guests, many of whom pay for tickets on their own, purchase individual tickets, but we also recruit a significant number of sponsors, and our sponsors receive a fair number of tickets as well. But we usually fill the theater with 500 people. And so both the sponsorship and ticket sales are a really important part of our overall financial picture. The raffle, the wine pull that we do, and the auctions, both the silent auction and the live auction, are also important, but the bulk of our financial support comes through ticket sales and through the sponsorships.
I see. So the ticket sales, how do the board members participate in that? How do you actually get the sales?
Yes, well, I'm glad you asked that question because certainly it's important to note that Jiva Theater Center is the region's nonprofit theater, and so we are governed by a board of trustees, and I'm happy to say that it's a very generous board of trustees. So each of our trustees are asked to purchase tickets, certainly on an annual basis. Many of them will also purchase sponsorship, and they're asked to bring guests to the event who may not be familiar with Jiva, who may be in for a first-time experience at Jiva that's really engaging and a lot of fun. But the board is very supportive. Several of our trustees also serve on the committee that organizes Summer Curtain Call. And then we have some volunteers from the community who also participate on the committee, And you know, collectively, they all pull enough resources together in order to sell the tickets and fill the theater.
So it's really important to. How far in advance do you start?
It's funny you should ask. I just had a conversation with someone this morning. We actually start planning for the June event or May event, depending upon the year, in September of the previous year. And there's just an awful lot that goes into planning an event like ours. One of the components of Summer Curtain Call is that we actually take over the portion of Woodbury Boulevard that's right out in front of the theater, and we stake a tent out there. So for the entire day of the event, access to Woodbury Boulevard is fairly limited. But closing off a street in the city of Rochester requires a fair number of permits, and there's a whole variety of activity that goes into that aspect of the event. And so we have to start early on that process. But even things like accessing liquor licenses to be able to serve outside, and there are just a fair number of things that are sort of bureaucratic in nature, but absolutely essential to making the event run well. So starting in September and recruiting new committee members who always bring a fresh perspective to the event usually happens as early as September or October, but we kick into high gear in about January.
I see. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, way in advance can allow you to think about, what.
Absolutely. But I will say, if you don't mind my just jumping in here, that we do a very thorough debriefing after the event each year. The staff who work on the event do a debriefing where we really break down every aspect of what took place during the event and prior to the event to think about ways in which we can improve or to identify opportunities for improvement or fine-tuning. I would like to believe at this stage of the game it's mostly fine-tuning because the event's been around for as long as it has. But then the committee also does a complete debriefing, and we take the information that we glean through those debriefings very seriously. We revisit the notes throughout the year and attempt to address everything we've come up with that would afford us an opportunity to make the event better. And even in the weeks just before the event, we look back at those notes and say, okay, have we addressed everything? And for the most part, we do a pretty good job of that. But every year is different, and you never know what's going to pop up and what we might decide to do differently next year based on what happened the previous year.
So that's great. It's always a learning opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
So you can always improve.
Absolutely. Continuous improvement, as they say.
When you stop improving, then that's disaster.
Absolutely.
Right? So there's other components, probably not as big of a revenue stream, but there's the raffle that you talked about.
Yes.
So could you explain how the raffle works?
Oh, yes. And in general, we offer several prizes of, some financial value, some monetary value, and offer people the opportunity to buy tickets to get entered into, one of 3 drawings, depending upon what prize they might be most interested in. And in general, that's a way for people who are not ready to make a serious financial commitment at the event to be able to do something and to participate in the fundraising aspect of the event. And tickets are usually, I think that we have something like, the length of your arm costs $30, depending upon how long your arms are. You get fewer tickets or more tickets. And so the raffle generates about $3,000 for us towards our overall goal, which isn't a huge amount of money, but I do think that it's really important that people who come to the event have an opportunity to participate in whatever way is comfortable for them. And some people have the resources to bid on live auction prizes, some people don't or choose not to. So the raffle provides that opportunity for people to be able to do something and potentially win something great in the process.
That's great. And I see people walking around with something big. So what's that about?
Yeah, well, the idea is we have strolling salespeople, if you will, who are attempting to persuade our guests to either purchase raffle tickets or to participate in our wine pull, which is another program that I will describe for you. But we try to avoid hitting people up too frequently. So once they purchase, they get a little pin that they're able to turn on and illuminate. And so our sellers, our strolling sellers, then know that those people have already made their commitment and try to avoid them.
That's great. That's a nice subtle way, and also for the supporter
Absolutely.
to say, I've supported.
That's right. That's right. So
talk to me about the wine pull.
The wine pull. We just added that component, I guess last year was the first year, so it's been 2 years now. And that's another way in which people can participate at a fairly low cost, in a low cost way. And we have wine bottles donated. They're donated by trustees, they're donated by members of the community. A number of the wine and liquor stores in the Rochester area will donate wine. And so we offer people an opportunity to pay $20 to actually pull a cork out of a little barrel. And then depending upon what number is on the cork, they then win the corresponding bottle that has the same number on it. And so the mystery of it is you don't know what the value of the wine will be. And we've been very fortunate the last couple of years to have had, a number of donors who have donated wine that is valued as much as $100 a bottle. I think this year we had something like 15 bottles that were all over $55 in value. So it's just an easy way, again, for people to be able to participate. And if they like wine, it's an even better incentive. So we do about 150 bottles. So that's another $3,000 for the event. So between the raffle and the wine pull, it's about $6,000. But again, it just gives people an opportunity to be able to participate at a more modest level than others might.
That's great. And then you have a silent auction.
We do, and of course, Rochester, as you said, is such a benevolent community, and there are just so many generous retail establishments, service providers, hotels, restaurants, you name it, spas, who are willing to donate goods and services to us to be able to include, to feature in the silent auction. And, it's everything from goods for your home to relaxing vacation getaways, just all sorts of things. And it's amazing. It's truly amazing to me to see how many entities in the community donate over and over and over again to our nonprofit organizations. It's really amazing to see how generous they are. So our silent auction usually does somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000. And again, the prices range. So there are the opportunities for people who want to contribute but more modestly are able to do it, and then there are folks who are willing to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 for an experience or something, an item that they see in the silent auction. And that's just a lot of fun because there's a lot of variety, and we like to think that there's something for everybody. Sure. I should mention that for the last couple of years we've done online bidding.
Yes.
We work through an online platform, and people are able to bid in advance of the event, and they're also able to keep track of their bids and what's going on during the event simply by using their phone. And so in any case, it's just made things so much easier to manage, and it's also made it much easier for people to be able to outbid each other if indeed they're bound and determined to get whatever that auction prize might be. So that's been a real improvement, a continuous improvement that we've been able to make, and had worked with one platform and then decided to make a change to another one. We'd been told that the platform we're now working with is the gold standard of online auction services, and we have certainly found that to be true. In terms of continuous improvement, that's an opportunity where we saw something that wasn't working quite as well for us, but have made the change, and it's made it a much more efficient process. It's made our donors happier because they feel like they're sort of on an equal playing field as long as they have a handheld device. They don't have to keep racing back to the auction tables to find out what's going on.
Yeah, because I remember it used to be like that for most auction places. So you'd be standing and you'd kind of feel intimidated because somebody else is bidding, hovering over the item. So when you could bid online, it's just a lot easier.
That's right. That's right.
You had people that, for those who don't have the online bidding capacity, they just kind of bid for you, right?
Yes, we have what we call bid buddies.
Okay.
And our bid buddies are people who are just familiar with the technology. They've received some training, so they're able to help people who are less adept potentially at handling online bidding. They're right there to assist them. And we probably have about 12 bid buddies who are roaming the theater. They wear bright orange shirts, so they're easy to locate. And this year I found that several donors grabbed me to say, where can I find a bid buddy? So I think the presence of those individuals has become better known, and people have no problem asking for help when it comes to trying to win something they're really interested in.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. So these are, so you've got a lot of staff working, and they're volunteers.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I can't say enough about our staff at Jiva and how they rally when there's something like Summer Curtain Call. In fact, given the fact that we've just completed our 19th year, there are people who've been working at the theater all those years who have been part of Summer Curtain Call all 19 years. And when you get hired at Jiva, you become quickly indoctrinated to know that you need to be available the day and evening of Summer Curtain Call, because it really and truly is a theater-wide event. All of our staff, all of our full-time staff are expected to be there and to help out in whatever way they can. And in many cases, they have just assumed responsibilities that they return to over and over again. And it's such a great comfort to the staff who's responsible for ensuring the event's a success, to know that the staff is so willing and so able to help in the way that they do. Beyond the staff who are there volunteering their time, we also have about 50 volunteers who come to the theater the evening of the event to specifically be helpful in whatever ways we need for them to be, whether it's greeting our guests, whether it's identifying bid buddies and connecting them with guests, refreshing tables, emptying garbage, you name it. Registration, of course, they're there and happy and willing to be part of it, and we're grateful to them. You hear the phrase over and over again, it takes a village, but it definitely takes a village at Jiva, the Jiva village, to make this event possible.
That's great. We're going to take a quick break. It's been wonderful conversation here, and I can't wait to the next part of it. Our guest is Laura Sadowski. She's the Director of Advancement at Jiva Theater Center. We'll be right back.
Yeah! Sam, Elmo!
Oh, hey, Julia. Are you ready to play band with us? I'm going to play my clarinet.
And Elmo's gonna play his drum. Drum loud.
Oh, well, you know what to do, Julia.
Julia knows.
With Julia's autism, loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music. Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
And we're back. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money. My guest is Laura Sadowski, Director of Advancement at Jiva Theater Center, and we're talking about their wonderful fundraiser, Summer Curtain Call. Thanks again for being here, Laura.
My pleasure.
So earlier in part of the show, we talked about ticket sales, we talked about the raffle, we talked about the bidding, and then there's another part of raising money, and that's the auction. Right?
Yeah, it's the auction, the live auction.
Live auction, yes.
Yes, and that's a very important part of the event. We've been very, very fortunate the last couple of years to not only be able to put together some really wonderful experiences, some auction packages, if you will, that have been very appealing, but we've had a number of things donated, and it's just amazing to us to see, again, how generous people are. So in any case, part of the live auction, too, is that we try to put together some experiences that are very Jiva-centric, if you will. For example, there is a package in which people can sit in on a casting session for a Jiva production. Jiva does all of its casting out of New York City. So our team will head down to New York to audition actors and singers and so on for productions, and we usually offer at least one package where individuals can bid on attending a casting session in New York, and it includes accommodations and so on. So that's a very Jiva-centric event, or I should say package. And then there are things like vacation, homes in Palm Springs and Cancun and Puerto Vallarta and various other places. And so they're terrific. We always try to focus on the kinds of things that we think will give people a very special experience, and certainly the Jiva-centric packages are part of that. And we've been very fortunate to have Pam Sherman, who many people know as the suburban outlaw, who does a column not only for the Democrat and Chronicle locally, but her column runs across the country in Gannett-owned newspapers. And Pam has been our Mistress of Ceremonies and our auctioneer the last few years. And Pam is amazing. She is hysterical. She's very persuasive, and she really has a good time serving as the MC. And because she knows as many people as she does, she has no problem calling on people who she sees in the audience to encourage them to bid and to increase bids. And she just has such a great way about her that sometimes she gets into a banter, with various people in the audience, and that becomes as much a part of the show as the performance does or is later on. So we raise, probably about $30,000 to $40,000 through the through the live auction, I should say, annually. And by and large, people have wonderful experiences as a result of it. And we keep offering some of the same things because from year to year there'll be people who are bidding on the same packages and come very close to winning, but don't necessarily. So the next year they're able to bid, and so it's worked out very well.
That's great. That's great. Actually, a lot of people say that Pam is like a performance on her own.
Yeah, absolutely.
But her
as-
auctioning
yes.
is a performance by itself.
Yes.
So.
And as you know, Pam performed in the Irma Bombeck show at
Yes.
Wits End at Jiva. So while we've known and loved Pam for a long time, I think that her affinity for Jiva has just grown since that experience. And so we're very fortunate to have someone as vested as she is in helping us with that part of the program.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then you have the show, which has a lot of cast
show.
members. So how many? How big is the cast typically? And
Good question. Well, we try to recruit anywhere from 25 to 30 cast members. And we look at, sort of the list, mentally, the list of people that we know who are visible in the community, who potentially have not done the show before. We're always looking for emerging talent, emerging leadership. If somebody new comes to town to take over, say, as the president of a bank, the new president of a bank, believe me, they're on our hit list.
okay. Yeah.
So we're constantly thinking about who might be, good on stage. It isn't necessary to have any kind of performing talent. I would say, in fact, probably 75% of the people who are in the cast annually have no experience being on stage, whether it's singing or dancing or performing as an actor or so on. So we invite people to do it. We do ask that our cast members also provide a modest level of sponsorship for the event. And then they're able to bring some people with them to see them on stage.
Sure.
And again, it's it's amazing to see how these people. We have, I mentioned bank presidents. There's one particular bank president who did it for the second time this year, and he wants to do it again next year. He said,
great.
such a good time. But we've had county and city leadership. We've had civic leaders, business leaders, well-known media personalities. Just people who are on our radar screen who have all agreed to do it. Colleges and universities. We've had folks from the U of R, from RIT, from MCC, Nazareth, Brockport, Fisher, you name it.
Very inclusive.
And very inclusive.
Or towns, for that matter.
Our
right?
towns, exactly. And so we really, just try to mix it up. And it's amazing to see how, in many cases, the people who come together to be part of the cast don't know each other. If you're somebody who's worked in academia and it's a town supervisor, say from Clarkson or something, they probably aren't familiar with each other.
Sure.
But when they get together to do this show, they become a real bonded group of people.
Sure.
And one of the interesting aspects of the show, I mentioned that Mark Cuddy, our artistic director, writes the show. He writes it over the course of a weekend.
Oh, wow.
He just sort of sequesters himself for a couple of days and writes the show, and it's always very funny, which I'm amazed at how someone can write so well and still be so funny in such a short period of time. So Mark writes the show with an idea of who is going to be in the cast, because we provide him with the names, but my team does the recruiting of the VIP cast members. So he writes the show, and he, tries to figure out who's going to be doing what role and so on. The cast members spend all of 20 minutes the week of the event with Mark and our music director. That's it as far as their one-on-one rehearsal time goes. At that point, they're presented with their script. They're told what is being suggested that they do on stage, who they'll be on stage with, and so on. And then the day of the event, they do 1-2 hour rehearsal with the entire cast.
I see.
And it's amazing to see how it generally comes across as being a fairly well choreographed, well directed, well executed performance. But again, people, it's amazing to see how people are such good sports, and it generally helps to have a sense of humor too, because being part of this really, requires you to be able to laugh at yourself while you're also laughing along with everyone else. So, but it's pretty amazing, and we're always open to new cast members. So if there are folks out there who are interested in participating, we'd like to hear from them.
Yeah, get in touch. Right?
Absolutely.
I remember one of the summer curtain calls was based on Chorus Line, because it was the end show. And the people auditioning for the Chorus Line had great voices, and then it comes to this one attorney And he had the worst voice, but it was so funny. I mean, and he had such courage to sing, belting out such horrible notes.
Yes.
But it was funny that to see that, you know,
Yeah,
like you said,
yeah.
people have to be a good sport.
Absolutely.
To be able to partake in
I
it.
think it's a very humanizing experience, and people enjoy seeing other people just be real.
Sure.
I think it gives us comfort and allows us to feel more confident in ourselves when we see that other people are willing to put themselves out there and maybe not be quite as polished or professional as you would expect them to be, but it's good for all of us to experience that.
Right, and then occasionally you have some really great talent, and
Yes,
it's wonderful to hear
yes.
that. And
As a matter of fact, last year, our performance concluded with an appearance by Austin Giorgio, the local fellow who was on The Voice.
Yes.
And so that really brought down the house. But you know, it doesn't take an Austin Giorgio to bring down the house. Our local talent is very capable of doing that.
yes, we've got, but wonderful when you can get those people to
Absolutely.
participate. That's
Absolutely.
terrific. So it really, like you said, takes a Jiva village to get everybody to come in and participate, whether they volunteer or gather prices for the auction
Absolutely.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's great. Well, you've been remarkable at juggling all the balls associated with it. And oh, you know
We have
what?
a great team. We
Yeah.
have a fantastic team.
That's right. And you
Yeah.
know what? Let's talk about the brochures a little
Sure.
bit. So the multifunction, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so our program, which we produce every year, features not only the lineup of events for the evening, but also includes the cast members' names and affiliations and so on. It includes a fair number of ads. There are individuals who will purchase an ad in the program to support the event, and or others who are sponsors of the event who receive ads. This also serves as our guide to both the live auction and the silent auction. Everything is listed in here so that our guests are able to access this and see in advance what they're, I shouldn't say in advance, but are able to check throughout the evening to see what it is that is available to them throughout the evening.
And it's also a paddle, isn't it?
And it's a paddle, but I didn't bring one that's numbered, and I'm so
Okay.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
Traditionally, we have the number on the back of our program, and when it comes to doing the live auction, up goes the paddle with a number. And you know, something we haven't talked about yet, Nannette, is our paddle call,
Oh, right,
which I think
right.
is becoming an increasingly popular way to be able to engage people at a fundraising event. Because when people are captive and they're having a good experience and they have become familiar with the mission of your organization, oftentimes just through their attendance at the event, there's an opportunity to sort of take advantage of the enthusiasm and interest that has been elevated during the course of the evening. And someone like a Pam Sherman, the MC or the auctioneer for an event like Summer Curtain Call, will do something called the paddle call, which is to ask people in the audience to raise their paddle to support the organization or the program that is being highlighted during the course of the evening. So at Jiva, we do Summer Curtain Call specifically to raise money for our education and engagement programs. And so as part of the program, you know, we talked about the performance, we talked about the live auction, but we also do a part of the program where we have students who have participated in our education programs come out on stage and perform or talk about what the significance of their Jiva experience was. And some of these young people are just so incredibly eloquent and talented and confident and poised, and they are able to come out and share with our audience what their experience has been at Jiva. And so after having seen students come out and do that, Pam will say, okay, who wants to do a paddle call for $5,000, $2,500, $1,000, $10,000, exactly.
Right.
And again, that's a way for a lot of people to be able to participate. Not everyone can do a $5,000 paddle call, but you know, if there's someone in the audience who can and is willing to, that's a wonderful thing. And then, you know, we get down to about $50, and there are a fair number of people who do that as well. So that's just another important component. And traditionally, the paddle call does anywhere between, I'm going to say $40,000 to $60,000 for our event. And, you know, I say between, we like to think the number keeps ticking up, and in general it does, but I'm thinking back towards the last couple of years.
So what's the high water mark for the Summer Curtain?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We've had some people who've been a part of the committee for, I'm going to say, upwards of 8 to 10 years, who have really enjoyed watching this event evolve. Not only evolve in terms of the components included in the event, but also in terms of the fundraising levels. And so for a while, we were doing somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000 a year, nothing to sneeze at. And then we got to a point where it was about 150, 170. We've now gotten to about 275. And so personally, my goal is to take it to the next level, which in my mind is about 300,000. And we're already thinking about some ways in which we can potentially incorporate some new components next year to make that possible. But I'd like to think that this could become at least a $300,000 event. And frankly, our fundraising budget, our goal for fundraising at Jiva annually is just over $2 million. And because this event raises $275,000 or so, that's over 10% of our fundraising budget, or I should say our fundraising goal. So this is really a very important part of our overall annual operating budget. And if we can increase that, it would just give us a little bit more budget relief and allow us potentially to raise more money overall.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Laura. This has been so informative, and I hope our audience were able to pick up some tidbits of information and running their own fundraiser, but want to wish you and Jiva the very best. So this is great, and congratulations.
Thank you, Nannette.
And thank you, our guest, for joining us today. I'm Nannette Nocon. My guest was Laura Sadowski, Director of Advancement at Jiva Theater Center. Until next time.